Figuring out BYD's naming is like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube with your feet. Mildly difficult. Take the BYD UM Plus that went abroad as the Atto 3, and then they took the BYD seal abroad as well, but kept the name the same. This is the FangChengBao B5, and here's a new one. BYD is not only changing the model name, but also the entire brand. When this goes abroad, this is going to be the Denza B5. I'm Will, and this is China Driven. Oh, that's just bullying. Who put in a higher suspension setting? We don't have any official pricing of this when it goes abroad, although we do know that it's most likely going to Australia. We do know that the price on the Chinese market starts at just under $32,000 and goes to just over $41,000 for this top trim model. That's US dollars, not Australian. It's a boxy utilitarian off-roader with almost classic styling with that grille and squarish headlights. Down lower you get this angled front bumper with a fake plastic skid plate, but it does have an approach angle of 35 degrees and a departure angle of 32. It's not up there with the likes of the Defender or Bronco, but it's on par with its Chinese competitor Tank 400. Plastic cladding all around and another fake skid plate in the rear. This is running the DSUS suspension, DSUS P, which is BYD's hydraulic suspension. It's a big, boxy thing. I keep saying it's functional. This is what the kind of shape you want in a practical off-roader. Huge square mirrors, roof rails up top, and a flat back end in order to maximize space on the interior. So it's designed to be functional, like I said. It's not designed to win a beauty contest. Now, back here, you have a place for your spare wheel, typical off-roader stuff, and a barn-style door opening, which is aided by a piston. Again, you're gonna need a lot of space to open this. Inside, they say that there is 1,069 liters with the second row up. If you pop them down, well, you have even more space, but I don't know how much because they didn't give me an official figure. I haven't really found an elegant way to get into this thing with my short legs. But upon scrambling into this the first time, I have to say I was quite blown away. Now, I've been in Bao 5s before, but never the top trim. And this thing is smothered in micro suede. The headliner, the door cards, the center console, dash, and even the seats. And everything seems properly screwed together. And any cheaper plastics are frankly too low for my little arms to reach, except for the sunglasses holder. That does feel cheap and it doesn't always properly close. Now, I'm on team physical buttons. No button interiors are always ergonomically a nightmare, but how many buttons is too many buttons? Where's the line between minimalist suave and mid-2010s button fest? There's 14 buttons and knobs on this steering wheel alone. There's another 11 in this center console and 6 more in the roof. And AC controls, well, yes, on and off, that's all you get. I'm conflicted. Functionally, this steering wheel gives you access to all of the things you would need while driving. It may be overwhelming to me, but I'm sure if you owned one, you get used to it. This mass of buttons in the center, well, this is to give easy access to all the off-roading doodads like locking differentials, low range and suspension modes. But I'm not a fan of these plastic crystal buttons, which look as premium as they feel. This is cool though. If you turn off the car, pointless, but cool. But this mass of buttons with the large gear selector really dominate this center console styling, but it kind of works with the whole styling up here. It's very brutalist and square with the steering wheel round and almost looking out of place. The dash is rammed with screens, a 12.3-inch digital instrument panel, and also a 12.3-inch screen for the passenger entertainment screen. And in the center is a 15.6-inch 2.5K infotainment screen. The infotainment OS is very BYD-ish, and by that what I mean is that they like to split the car's function into kind of mini apps. You have 3 pages of apps in here. Some are the car's apps and some that you can download. And whilst I think it is logical to say split all the off-roading functions into its own mini app, I feel that they're kind of overly divided. So for example, we have an app just for the suspension and an app for the off-roading modes. I think that they could be together and then have less individual apps going on, because for me as not an owner, takes a bit of searching around to get the right function. But it is snappy and responsive and it looks pretty good. You can even change the color of the car if you like to something else, and you can use this 3D car to do things like open the windows and things like that. You also get a 5G connection, dual wireless 50-watt chargers up front. You also get heated and ventilated seats with spa massage, and that massage is quite vigorous. You also get a 16-speaker sound system as standard, upgraded to 18 in this top trim with headrest speakers. And it's not Dolby Atmos, but it is spatial audio. And I have to tell you, surprisingly, it really surprised me, this sound system is really, really good. I mean, it thumps the bass pretty hard, and there seems to be little to no distortion no matter how loud you go. Top spec trims come with an equivalent 50-inch heads-up display, though it's quite simplistic in what it does display. In this top trim, you'll find an intelligent fragrance system to keep your interior smelling fresh. 3 scents: wood, fruit, and green scent. It does have something that I'm not a huge fan of, and that is a fridge here in the center console. I don't like having fridges here because this is where I like to put my knickknacks, stuff like my driving license and other bits and pieces, change and stuff like that. It can cool all the way down to -6 and heat all the way up to 50 degrees. That's a huge range to keep things cool or hot. Oh, and handles. It's got some properly rugged handles for all your vigorous off-roading. Okay, so in the back of the Bao 5 or B5, you know what? It's quite airy and spacious in here, thanks for its big boxy shape and this huge opening panoramic sunroof here. It's also got a sunshade as well. Now, in the back of the seats, you've got pockets, which is not that unusual, but you've got one big one like you would normally have, and then 2 smaller pockets as well. So I think that's quite useful. You also have heat and ventilation on this back bench. It's 2-stage, high or low. They also do have recline, but it is manual only, so very unelegantly did that. You get a little bit of extra recline. Knee space is pretty good back here, leg room, and you can get your feet under the seats in front, which is always nice. Apart from that, you also get a USB-C and USB-A socket back here. And of course, you have your armrest, a little bit of storage, a couple of cup holders. Oh, and of course, when things get rough, you've got a handle here to make sure you don't move around too much. Okay, so let's talk about the batteries and range of this FangChengBao Bao 5 or Denza B5 as it will be known abroad. Now it comes equipped with a 31.8 kilowatt hour BYD blade battery. That's an LFP pack, and BYD or FangChengBao Denza claim that this has an EV only range of 125 kilometers on the CLTC. So real world, think more like 100 kilometers, 60-ish miles. Now in terms of charging, on the passenger side, you get both the fast charging and the slow charging ports. And they claim that this will do 30 to 80% in 16 minutes. Now this is a hybrid and it's denoted DMO, or dual mode off-roading. It's BYD's off-road version of its DMI platform. Now, it comes with an 85-litre fuel tank, and with a fully charged battery, has a combined range of 1,200 kilometers, but not on the CTLC, but the older NEDC scale. Weird. Okay, so power-wise, this has a 200 kilowatt motor up front and a 285 kilowatt in the rear for 485 kilowatts total for the EV motors. Now, there is also, because this is a hybrid, a 1.5 turbo 4-cylinder with 143 kilowatts of power. Combine and add all of that up, and they claim 505 kilowatts of power and 760 Newton meters total for the car. Okay, so with all that in mind, all of that power on paper, they claim that this will do 0 to 100 in 4.8 seconds. Now, in order to actually get that, there is, I'm not joking you, this is an off-roader, remember, but in the multitudes of modes, there is a launch mode. So I was in EV mode, now it's kicked in the engine, it's lowered the suspension. So let's see, 4.8 seconds it says. Jesus. Okay, I believe it. I believe it. I can't go that fast on this road, but I believe it. It doesn't feel very natural for it to do it. Your nose rises like crazy and you're just holding on for dear life. The front end can gets a little bit squirrely. It's a little bit light, but it can do it. Why you need that in an off-roader? I don't really think you do. I think it's just because of the amount of power that this has, it just can do it.
The interesting thing about that 760 Newton meters of torque is not its acceleration, but what it allows the BAO5 to do off-road. Following the larger BAO8, BYD's FangChengBao have pushed an OTA with a dramatic name, Beast Mode, allowing you to deploy max torque at as little as 2 kilometers an hour. Videos of FangChengBaos having tugs of war with trucks showing it putting down the power with Beast Mode, limiting slipping and stalling, as well as allowing their cars to climb some pretty damn steep slopes, using tech and software to enhance its off-road credentials.
In suspension-wise, there's a double wishbone up front and in the rear. And this is not using air suspension, it uses Denza P, and Denza P is actually hydraulic suspension. So BYD across its brands now has lots of different suspensions. There's some that are air, some that are just kind of like a continuous dampener, and then they have hydraulic suspension as well. The Yangwang U9 and U8, you know, even crazier suspensions. Okay, so that's all kind of the technical stuff, but like, what does that mean for the way that it kind of rides and drives? Well, this is a high riding SUV. So if you've ever driven, you know, a kind of off-roading SUV, then you'll understand, like, yes, when you accelerate hard, the body moves. When you brake hard, the body also moves a lot. When you go around corners, there's a lot of body roll, but that's to be expected in a high riding SUV like this. Now, in terms of, is it comfortable? It's all relative, right? It does a good job of smoothing out big bumps, but it moves about a lot, and it's not the softest cloud-like ride that you can get. But that's not what it's built for. You know, this is built as an off-roader with its low range, its locking differentials. It's built for a purpose, and that purpose is not pootling around the city, commuting to work every day. It can do it, and it does a very convincing job of doing it, but it's just not what it specializes in. Now, the fronts have double pane glass. The rear only has single pane glass, which means at higher speeds, you can kind of hear wind noise coming from behind you. And obviously at higher speeds, remember, this is not a sleek sedan cutting through the air. This is a massive square just smashing its way through. And so wind noise does kind of get up as you're at high speeds, but it's not like it's torturing here. It's not like my ears are bleeding. It's perfectly fine. You can hold a conversation, no problem. It's just there. Okay, so this does come obviously equipped with ADAS. It's called V-Pilot, it's at L2. It is the lowest level of L2 though. It's just lane keep assist and adaptive cruise control, emergency braking, all of that stuff. This is not like an FSD competitor. It's not a city ADAS or anything like that. It follows the car in front. It keeps you in your lane. It does do what it's meant to do. It can, however, sometimes move a little bit in its lane. If you're going along a straight road, but there's kind of a big bend, you best keep your eye on it because it's really not designed for big angles of turning. Look, I've become quite enamored with this over the few days that I've had it. And obviously it's going abroad as a Denza B5, and will it be popular? I mean, it's a hard one to answer, right? It's going to depend kind of on the price. But I think as a proposition of what this car is, if this is what you're in the market for, it's definitely something you have to go check out. If you don't fully understand like where this car fits, and I'll explain it maybe within the context of a brand that you will understand. So this is more Land Rover Defender than it is Range Rover Sports. This is in its heart, like the Defender, a hardcore off-roader, or that's what it is promised to be. And then because just like the Defender, if you look at the old one to the new one, a lot of people want to drive these around every day, and therefore they've added that city road manners kind of into it, made the interior more premium, and tried to give a more rounded package for this car. I really wish I could take this thing off-road. It's a little unfair to review this car solely driving it in the city. I'd love the chance to take this off-road and see how it does. By all accounts, it's decent off-roading with its low range and locking differentials. But the vast majority of people who buy a car like this will be pootling around the city, and this can do the daily commute. And in this top trim, it feels quite premium, but it never really feels quite at home in the city.